It is Sunday, and this is the beginning of week 5 of the Threeriverschallenge Pantry Challenge. My name's Laura. I'm from Eastern Iowa, live in a very small town, and decided to join in on the fun this year. Today, my husband told me he wanted breakfast for dinner, so I thawed a couple packs of bacon. We're going to get that cooked and have that be our main meat. We have 8 chickens, and so we always have lots of eggs. So we'll have eggs, and then I found a random box of was partially used of those Idaho Spuds hash browns, and we'll get some breakfast for dinner made. I'm gonna pull out enough of what I think we'll eat tonight, and then I'm gonna fill it with some nice hot water from our tap, throw a plate over it to act like a lid, and let that sit until the bacon's closer to being done. I do bake my bacon in the oven, and I just find it's easier. It keeps it flat a little easier, less mess on my stovetop. And when all said and done, I get to pour that bacon grease off and save it for cooking potatoes or eggs or whatever else I feel like. Now, this is my raspberry lemonade concentrate that I jarred up this last summer. And basically, it's just the raspberries fresh that I pureed, lemon juice, sugar, and it's really easy. It's just one jar of this to 2 parts water. So you'll see I add 2 of those jars full of water, give it a good swirl to mix it up, put it in the fridge. I thought maybe that could be a fun treat and take us back to summer on these cold days. So I'm going to cook these hash browns. They've been soaking for a while. I do need to strain them off, so I'm just going to put a sieve on top and kind of dump the water out. Through that, while my butter gets nice and melty, I'm just going to throw my hash browns in here and try and do them as an even layer as I can. Now, I will tell you, I'm horrible at these. I do not have patience to make sure they are crispy. No matter how much my husband begs, I just don't have the patience. So I'm going to do the best I can. I did go ahead and season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. As you can tell, cooked, but definitely not crispy. But my bacon is crispy and it is done, so I'm pulling that out of the oven. I will end up saving all of that bacon grease for later use. I'm just going to throw these hash browns in the same pan with my bacon. Of course, I have to make a mess in the process because it's cooking, right? So I can go ahead and fry Oliver's egg and then my egg, which I'm going to start with butter and get it nice and hot. Oliver's a lot like me, and he likes his whites done and his yolks runny. So I'm going to do my best on his to keep it that way and not break the yolk when I go to flip it. So I've got his bowl started, some hash browns, some good bacon. Now I'm going to add his perfectly cooked egg. Here is Oliver and I's breakfast for dinner. I let my husband fry his own eggs. Today is Monday, and my husband texted me from work saying he was in the mood for hamburger helper. Well, I don't have hamburger helper in my pantry. I'm going to do my best to recreate a version of it. And so, of course, start with a pound of ground beef. And then I'm going to add in some garlic. And I ended up just using what was left in this container. Most of it was like garlic liquid. And then I will end up following up with about a tablespoon of just an Italian seasoning mix. And of course, can't forget a good salt and pepper to it. Now I have some tomato soup that I canned from my garden from this year. So I brought up 2 pints, not really sure how many I was going to use. I did end up adding both of them. And the only thing I would have done differently would I would have done one and then another pint of like chicken broth or something, because we thought maybe it was a little too tomatoey. But I also added, as you saw, some shell noodles. Those are my husband's favorites. And then whatever was left in that of milk, probably not even a half a cup. And I'm just going to let that cook down and let those noodles get cooked and release some of the starches to help thicken. I did buzz out to the chicken coop real quick to lock them up, and I got 1 egg today. That's probably the least I've been getting. And I found some Boursin cheese still left over from Christmas because I bought the 3-pack from Costco. So I thought I would add that in place of something like a cream cheese, just to add a creaminess or like another depth to it. I'm also going to add a couple small handfuls of sharp cheddar cheese, get that stirred in. So at this point I did taste it, and it needed a kick of something, so I did add some red pepper flakes and then a good helping of some pepper. Oh, it's not quite time for dinner, and I also want this to thicken a bit, so I'm just going to put a little bit of cheese on the top, turn the burner off, put the lid on, and come back in like a half hour. So it's ready, and I'm going to get all of our nice plates dished up, and we're going to go enjoy some dinner. This was really good, and we did enjoy it, but it just was a smidge tomatoey for us. Tonight we're going to make some chicken enchiladas. I have some enchilada sauce that I canned downstairs that I need to use. So I'm going to start by cooking my chicken, and I've already diced it. I'm also going to add in this sad pepper that was in my fridge. So I'm just going to season my chicken cubes with some taco seasoning and get those cooking while I cut up my red bell pepper. So off camera, I did cook my tortillas, the same ones I've been using this whole pantry challenge. And so now it is time to assemble. I have my enchilada sauce. I brought up 2. I didn't really know how many I wanted to use. They're a little looser than what you can buy in the store, but that's okay. And I've got my cheese and still that Boursin cheese I'm trying to work through. And I'm going to use this to make my filling creamy. So I'm going to take my pan of hot chicken and peppers, put it in with that Boursin cheese, and try and like melt it a little bit while I mix it together to incorporate it. I'm going to put about a half a pint of my enchilada sauce in the bottom of my pan so that I can, number one, coat the bottom of the pan, but also I want to be able to dip my tortillas in it to get them coated good enough. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to rub my tortilla around in there, and then I'll move it over to my paper plate in order to fill it and roll it. So I think I did 5 tortillas, and they ended up being the perfect amount because they weren't too big. Well, they were actually really big. I could only eat a half of one, and same with Oliver. My husband, that's a different story. But yeah, it worked really well. So I'm just going to sit here and roll all these up, fill them and roll them. As you can see, these tortillas are amazing. I can bundle them up and they don't break. They're super flexible and they're really good. I convinced my friend today to buy some, and I hope and just know that she's going to be so happy by it. So now I'll take the other half of this pint and just drizzle it over the top so it has a nice coating. And then I will follow that up with a nice layer of cheese. And I'm going to bake this at 350 for about a half hour, just till it's bubbly and the cheese is melted. This was so good, and I would 100,000% make it again. It was amazing. My little boy ate this so fast, I could hardly believe what I was seeing. It was fantastic, and it made really good leftovers too. We ate off this for a couple meals. We don't have any sour cream, so we're going to use ranch to top ours, and of course, Cholula. So there you go, super easy and delicious chicken enchiladas. One of my husband's favorite meals of all time is chicken alfredo. I have not made it for him in quite some time, so I thought I'd surprise him. So I'm taking my chicken breasts, dicing them up, coating them with salt and pepper, and I'm just going to cook them in olive oil until they get nice and crispy. Meanwhile, I'm going to cook some shell noodles because those are his favorite, especially for fettuccine alfredo. It really holds the alfredo sauce quite well. My pasta's done and drained, so I'm just going to throw my chicken in there while I work on my sauce. And for my sauce, I'm going to melt some butter. And I didn't know that I had yet another thing of heavy cream in the fridge from the holidays. So I ended up putting flour in to make a roux because I thought I was going to need to thicken it because I thought I was using milk. Nevertheless, it's fine. So I'm going to start by adding my cream in, and we'll let that cook once the flour cooks out. We'll get all that in there and then we'll season it up. Now I have a wedge of Parmesan cheese from Costco that I took out of the freezer. It made it really easy to crumble. And I'm just going to stir that in, and then I'm going to go ahead and add some black pepper. And also with the black pepper, I like to add a garlic and herb seasoning that I get from the Amish, along with some parsley. And we'll get that all stirred in. Once I stirred it in, I did taste it, and it needed a little bit more cheese. So I'm just kind of chopping some more off the wedge until I feel like it's enough. And then I'll stir it in, taste it again, and it ended up being great. So my sauce is done. So I'm going to add my chicken back in along with adding my pasta. I'm going to give that a good stir and see if it needs thinned out or anything, because I want it to be a good consistency. It was on the thick side, so I did add some more milk and stirred it around, and I got it to be a perfect consistency for how we like it. This is always a big hit for us. Tonight I served it with some steamable Brussels sprouts from the freezer. It's Friday and it's the last day I'm going to show you for cooking, and surprisingly, again, I'm making pasta. I don't know. We just, I guess, really wanted pasta this week. But tonight it's just me and my little boy. And so I'm going to make a spaghetti sauce full of some veggies that my husband doesn't particularly love. And we're going to enjoy a fun little pasta night with just Mommy and Oliver. And we'll probably watch a cartoon and movie and just hang out. So I'm going to start by cutting up half of an onion, pretty small, and add that to my pan with my ground pork that you saw earlier. Now this is the very last pepper out of my freezer, and it's also very sad and wrinkled. But I'm going to dice this up and add it into my onion and pork mixture as well. If I had freeze-dried zucchini, I would absolutely put this in as well too. So I've got some homegrown garlic that I pureed, frozen cubes. So I'm going to add a couple of those in. And I'm also going to do 2 cubes of this pesto that I also had frozen in cubes. Just adds an extra herbaceousness to it. And then I've got 2 cans of these mushrooms left in my whole house, and my husband hates them. So I'm going to add them to our sauce because my little boy loves them. And here I've got, end up doing 2 quarts of the spaghetti sauce that I had canned up. And I'm going to put a little water in those jars and get all that yumminess out. Don't want to waste it. And this will be way more sauce than we need, but I'm kind of hoping to make like either a baked spaghetti or a lasagna next week, or just freeze it, whatever. So because I used regular pork, I added a tablespoon of Italian seasoning mix to it. And I'm just going to put the lid on and let this cook and let all those flavors marry. And while I do that, I'll go ahead and boil some noodles. I'm going to go ahead and get Oliver's plated so it can start to cool. I've got some rotini noodles in his bowl. I'll put some sauce on it and let that cool down for him so it's not too hot. And of course, we have to top it with some extra Parmesan cheese. This was delicious, and I kid you not when I say Oliver ate it so fast. Even faster than the enchiladas. It was great. Today was an absolutely gorgeous day. It was about 50 degrees. The sun was out. It was rather windy, which can make it feel colder than it is, but I just knew we had to get out and soak up some sun. So we went out and went on a little bike ride just around our property. We have 3/4 of an acre. And we got some sunshine, soaked up some vitamins. Now, this is Saturday, and I'm not doing any cooking today. I'm having a girls' day, but look at that sunrise. The video doesn't even do it justice. It was gorgeous. So I thought I had to share. And Bandit came out with me this morning to say good morning to our girls. We have 8 chickens, and we love them so very much. And we love to say hi to them and tell them good morning. So I thought I'd share that. Thanks for joining me this week. I hope to see everyone next week as we continue our journey.